I think every single person in this locker room is a competitor at the highest level. So, yeah, when you feel as if your backs are against the wall, you never have to feel like you got to do it by yourself.
Unbelievable throw. Under pressure, sacked by Quinnen Williams. Right sideline, Uzomah's got it.
You look to your left and your right, you got guys out there with you that our whole point is to help each other.
This one to Mims. That's Corey Davis climbing the ladder.
To be able to go out and lead these guys, just to know how hard these guys work and how important it is to them, and then you get that chance to lead them. Everything that happened that needed to happen for us, it almost felt like kind of like a sign, like you get like a second chance almost.
Gets extra pushes, running left.
Maybe a little extra life breathing in the locker room.
Touchdown Jets.
Welcome to Talking Jets. My name's Ryan. I'll be your pilot tonight. I am oh so excited to talk to you boys and girls out there. I am joined alongside my co-pilots. I've got Matt O'Leary to my this way. I've got Tigo from Talking Jets with Tigo from my that way. And I've got Buffalo Jet fan to my underneath side down here. Boys, how you doing tonight? Matt, I'm going to kick it to you first.
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk some Jets football with you guys. Excited to have Tigo and Buffalo with us. I do miss Green Bean, so I'm rocking him on the shirt. I don't know if you can see it, but he's here in spirit.
I love it. I should add another nameplate next to your name that says Matt and Green Bean.
Yeah, there you go.
Just on the one side. Green Bean, for you guys that are wondering, is traveling. We have put him on a mission. He is traveling to the Senior Bowl. He's going to get us all the juicy inside info. So we're going to be having a good old time with Green Bean coming up here in the next week or so. Tigo, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Honestly, I'm just really excited about this offseason because there's always something new to talk about. And like for the first time in a long time, it's not who we're going to take in the first pick, or the top three or whatever. So I'm excited.
What about you, Buffalo? How you doing tonight?
I'm feeling good too, man. I think that this upcoming season, we're probably going to have like the most competent quarterback play I'm hoping we've had in a long time, no matter who we want to fight over. Probably going to be a big upgrade. I'm looking forward to disagreeing with my guy Tigo shortly and hanging out with you guys.
I love it. I love it. Boys and girls, if you're just hopping in and you like what we're doing here, make sure you hit that like button. For every 25 likes we get on this video, we're going to pick a t-shirt qualifier. It's going to win a t-shirt at the end of this stream. And if you're watching after the fact, all you got to do is drop a comment down below this video and get entered into next week's t-shirt giveaway. Boys and girls, I want to jump off our conversation today with a clip from Good Morning Football. This is Jamal Williams, former Packers running back, talking about Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett.
Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers, how do you see that thing right now, and where do you see that going forward?
I don't know why. I just feel my boy is going to go to the Jets.
To the Jets?
You feel like that?
And I think I want to see Jordan Love finally get, his time to just shine and show us what he's worth. You know what I mean? So, yeah, let A-Rod go to the Jets, have fun, do his thing.
You played for Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah, that's my boy. Hacky sack.
So it's funny. So you say, yeah, that's my boy, you light up. People watching the NFL might say, oh, that guy was a bomb as a head coach. He was terrible. But players seem to like him. So he's with the Jets right now. That makes a lot of sense if you're talking about Rodgers.
He's a player's coach, no matter what. I feel like he's a great offensive coordinator. May not have been his first time as a head coach, but a great offensive coordinator. So just put him in his role, let him have fun out there. But he gets the players going. Like, he makes playing for him fun. So I feel like no matter if they was losing the Broncos, I feel like they still enjoyed his presence there.
It's awesome.
So, guys, that was the clip we just heard. We heard Jamal Williams say he thinks Aaron Rodgers is going to choose or go and get traded to the New York Jets, play here. A little bit later on, they asked him, do you think there's any issue with him following in Brett Favre's footsteps? He's been kind of trying to remove himself from that. They said, or Jamal Williams said, no, I don't think that's an issue. Aaron Rodgers beats to his own drum, so he's not going to care what anyone has done before them. He would come to the Jets. The other piece of the information that we got from Jamal Williams was Nathaniel Hackett is fun. He is a good offensive coordinator, is what we're told. I mean, this makes me feel good for a few reasons. One, Nathaniel Hackett, players like playing for him. We actually heard Aaron Rodgers say something similar as well today. And then the other part of this is another player from another team is suggesting one of the best quarterbacks in the league go to our team, meaning other players in the NFL actually like our roster and think that we are a quarterback away from competing. Or at least that's the way I took it. Matt, I want to hear your thoughts first. What are your opinions on this clip?
Well, first of all, he was making me a little dizzy spinning in that chair, man. I like watching him in that chair. He's moving around. Yeah, look at like Tigo's. He's doing his best Jamal Williams impression. No, obviously he's played with Rodgers earlier in his career, and they were close. So who knows? Maybe he's in his ear a little bit, telling him that he likes the New York Jets. I'm going to take it the same way you did, Ryan, where people around the league see the talent on this roster and see what they're missing, which is obviously a quarterback. And it seems to make a lot of sense. They are a team that's going to be willing to pay big money to a quarterback. Their owner is someone who likes to make a big splash. Things are kind of, lining up for this to take place, I think, anyway.
What about you, Tigo? How are you feeling about the thoughts that Jamal Williams gave to us?
I think it's Jamal Williams is just like the biggest thing, because he's been doing his press tour for whatever reason, and I've watched every single one of his interviews because he's just a fun guy. Like, he just comes off like a cool dude, and I love the Naruto headband, and he's just hanging out, right? That's what he's always talking about. But I think he just did what everybody else did, which is just connect the dots. He really likes Nathaniel Hackett. We all know that. He's 1 year removed from winning 2 MVPs with Nathaniel Hackett. Nathaniel Hackett's now on the Jets. Woody Johnson has come out and said, hey, we need to get a veteran quarterback. Everyone knows that the Jets are in the market for it. He's just connecting the dots and saying, the Jets are the best spot for Aaron Rodgers to go chase a ring. The Jets probably want Aaron Rodgers. It's probably going to happen. So I'm not going to take too much of that into oh my gosh, she's got some inside track. But if players who are on the league, just like you said, are saying it and they're thinking it, there has to be, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? There's got to be some kind of smoke.
Yeah, absolutely. Buffalo Jet fan, I want to hear your opinions. Do you think that this is valid? Do you think Nathaniel Hackett is fun and people enjoy him? Do you think that, there's all this mystique? A lot of Jet fans are upset with Nathaniel Hackett. Don't know what's going to happen with Rodgers. We don't want to get our hopes up. How are you feeling, Buffalo?
Well, I will take every morsel, every crumb that leads Aaron Rodgers to the Jets. I have no standard. Nothing is beneath me. If I see a cloud that looks like it's in the shape of a number 12, I'm all over it, man. And you know what? When you were saying that, I thought to myself, I'm like, that sounds like a great Hard Knocks season. Nathaniel Hackett out there doing dizzy bat, drinking beer, whatever. Aaron Rodgers and Robert Saleh having conversations. Yeah, man, it gets me excited. I think people like playing with Aaron Rodgers. You know why? Mostly because they like winning, and he's done a lot of that. And they like having a 21st century offense. And if you're a receiver, you like putting up big numbers. If you're a running back, you like not facing a stacked box. So, I think there's been a narrative with Aaron. Look, would I want him? He's not marrying my sister. Okay, he's not. It doesn't have my favorite personality. But always yelling at his young wide receivers. He was frustrated with that, and it's like, dude, our wide receivers request a trade the second they're drafted. I mean, that's where we've been at. Garrett Wilson is one more screen pass 10 feet over his head. His ass is going to request a trade by the bye week next year if we don't upgrade at quarterback. So, yeah, man, I like it. Jamal Williams likes Aaron Rodgers. Nate Hackett seems like a fun dude. Let's bring him to the Jets. Let's have some fun. Let's win some games. Let's do it, man. I'm down.
I love it. All right, I want to get into a completely different take on this. This one comes from Ryan Clark. This was on, I believe it was the Greeny show or whatever. So let's listen to that. We'll come back on the other side.
Nathaniel Hackett is actually terrible at coaching. He's terrible at managing an offense. He's terrible at decision making. But now let's bring him to the Jets, because is it about any quarterbacks that he's connected to? And then Robert Saleh, well, everybody in this league's connected. At least lie better. You know why you went out and got him. You didn't go get him because he just performed this phenomenal deed in Denver. He actually showed you that he can't command a locker room. He can't hold it in all. He can't hold it all together himself. And now we're going to ask that guy to be the offensive coordinator in New York, which is the worst place to be anything and not be good at it, just because he might get Aaron Rodgers, understanding what it's going to take to get Aaron Rodgers to be the quarterback of your team, and watching Aaron Rodgers play last year without Devontae Adams and thinking that that's going to be the guy that's going to come be the savior of this team that hasn't been to the Super Bowl and I don't know how dang long. We're doing too much, Greeny. You're hoping too much. So as your friend, see, sometimes you got to have people around you that are not yes men, Greeny. And I know you very successful, super rich types have people around you that are going to say yes to you because you play for every meal. Well, I can pay for my own dang meal, Greeny. So I'm going to tell you, y'all don't want Aaron Rodgers. Y'all don't need Aaron Rodgers. And if you went got Nathaniel Hackett so you could get Aaron Rodgers, that's a stupid hire. This is not the way to go. Go get the best quarterback you can possibly get for your team, and you want him to have the best offensive coordinator. So if you're doing all of this for a quarterback that in his great career, who is absolutely phenomenal, has won one Super Bowl, been to one Super Bowl, then you're doing it the wrong way. So I'm going to let you down now before the season gets here, and I got to see you sad every Monday morning.
So that was Ryan Clark. Very different take than one Jamal Williams. Very adamant for a guy who had never played for Nathaniel Hackett. Seems like he knows a whole lot about him. I would argue, he mentioned, Davante Adams, you think that's he's not with the Packers. You think you're going to save your franchise with Aaron Rodgers playing like he did last year. Let's just play a little bit of a game here. Aaron Rodgers has himself a rough season last year. Hey, Buffalo, want to guess who was not in Green Bay last year? A coach that is here in New York last year. Who wasn't in Green Bay? Who?
Hackett?
Nathaniel Hackett. Tigo, I got a question for you. Did Seattle do better or worse when Russell Wilson left?
They got better, significantly better.
So Russell Wilson goes to Denver and Seattle gets better. Nathaniel Hackett leaves Green Bay. Green Bay's offense gets worse, but somehow Nathaniel Hackett's a bad coach? Yeah, go kick rocks, Ryan Clark. I'm so done with this. Matt, am I talking out my ass, or is this am I piecing puzzle pieces together the correct way?
No, you're putting things together over there, my man, as per usual. I talked about Jamal making me dizzy. Why was Ryan Clark breathing so heavy? What was the deal with that? He's a little too out of breath for me there. What's going on? No, usually I like him, but maybe he's still salty that Aaron beat him in the Super Bowl back in 2010. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think that's there's something to that. Tigo, what about you? How you feeling about this comments from Ryan Clark?
Ryan Clark took the easy lol Jets take, right? He just went, oh, it's the Jets, so whatever they're doing is bad, right? Because he very clearly hasn't looked up Nathaniel Hackett's career and what he's accomplished outside of Denver once. Because if we look at the numbers of it, Nathaniel Hackett was in charge of the red zone in Green Bay. So even though he wasn't calling plays, he was in charge of the red zone. What happened to Green Bay's red zone efficiency the moment Nathaniel Hackett left? It plummeted. They were league average. Now they are the bottom of the league. Guess who else was at the bottom of the league? The other LaFleur brother with the New York Jets. So you know that you're going to get better in the red zone. And then the biggest thing for me is, how are you going to say that he's a bad offensive coordinator when he was able to manufacture a top 5 offense in Jacksonville with a joke at quarterback, which was Blake Bortles, we all knew that, off of the back of an insanely good rushing attack? It was a top 5 offense, and they had no weapons at wide receiver. They didn't have an NFL caliber quarterback, and everyone looked at Blake Bortles like he was the savior in Jacksonville. It's just, dude, do one quick Google on Nathaniel Hackett before you go on live TV and start spewing some stuff. Just quick, dude, on your phone. Just Nathaniel Hackett. Oh, he was in Jacksonville all those years? It was just dumb.
Buffalo, talk to me. How you feeling?
Yeah, I think for me, he spoke about Nathaniel Hackett commanding a locker room and doing things that he's not going to be asked to do. I don't know if Ryan Clark doesn't know that Nathaniel Hackett's not the head coach of the Jets, but to me, the Nathaniel Hackett slander. Okay, I don't know if Nathaniel Hackett is a great OC. I wasn't doing cartwheels because we went from MLF to Nathaniel Hackett. At the end of the day, our offense didn't score a touchdown in 13 straight quarters. You lose your job. It happens. But to me, the Aaron Rodgers only winning one Super Bowl is a really interesting critique, because it's who else on the market has a better resume? So Tom Brady's the only answer. It's the only active quarterback now that Big Ben is gone who's won multiple Super Bowls. Derek Carr and Lamar Jackson, who we've talked about a bunch, both of whom I like, have one combined playoff win between them. Aaron Rodgers has as many Super Bowls as they have playoff wins. So I think that's been a frustrating talking point of this whole quarterback situation, is there's obvious flaws and downsides to every single option you can point out, but you got to give me the other side. You want to say, if you would have went on there and if you would have said Don't pay 2 firsts for Aaron Rodgers. You can get Derek Carr for a mid-round pick. Derek Carr is younger. He can be here 4 or 5 years. Like, I would probably still disagree with him, but we could go back and forth. There's a conversation to be had there, but Ryan Clark was too lazy to actually have it, which is disappointing because I really like Ryan Clark and he went full Stephen A. Smith there. I don't know what that was. That was disappointing from Clark. I like him.
That was well put, Buffalo and Tigo. The two of you guys hit that right on the head. I usually do like Ryan Clark, and it felt very lazy take from Ryan Clark there. Now, I want to pivot a little bit, talking about a really good take of Nathaniel Hackett and a really bad take of Nathaniel Hackett. And let's talk about Nathaniel Hackett and the thought of him leading Aaron Rodgers to New York. Aaron Rodgers was asked this on the Pat McAfee show, and here was what he said.
We all have certain coaches that have meant a lot to us over the years and have created those really special rooms to play in, special feelings on game day, made the weeks better. Obviously, Nathaniel's one of those guys. I'm not sure what the future holds for me, but those are friendships, the ones I mentioned, that are going to last longer than football, and I'm really thankful for that part of the sport and what the sport gives you in that regard.
So I have to agree a little bit with Ryan Clark in that you should not have signed Nathaniel Hackett specifically to go after Aaron Rodgers. You should sign him because you think he's the best offensive coordinator for the job, which I don't know if he was. I think it's more so a little bit of circumstance as well, where Robert Saleh, Joe Douglas have their back against the wall. Any of the young and up-and-coming offensive coordinators that are the hot-ticket guys, they're not going to wind up tying themselves up with the New York Jets because they could be canned after 1 year. It's not going to look good on their resume. Clearly, the Jets had to find an experienced signal caller. Hackett was really, I don't want to say the only option, but it felt like the only option that was realistic to come here. He has a relationship with Saleh. He's worked with 𝐒𝐿𝐵RICK before. There's obviously the little bit of hope that you could get an Aaron Rodgers as well, but I think with him having a top rushing attack in Jacksonville, you can at least say Hackett was brought in to at least coach the people that we have in the building here. Matt, what were your thoughts of Aaron Rodgers' comments about not following a particular coach to a new destination?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what you have to say in that spot, right? Like, obviously he has a really good working relationship, but you also have to do what's best for yourself. And if he decides that the Jets are what's best for himself, and Hackett being there is part of that, then that helps. But I don't think it would be like the only reason for him to go. It's not like he was waiting around to see where Nathaniel Hackett was going to get hired as an OC before he makes his decision. I think, if he ends up coming here, I think it would be part of the reason, but not the only reason he comes.
Yeah, I think the other thing you can kind of look at too is, from what we heard, Nathaniel Hackett was all set to take a year off. He wasn't really looking to coach. Would he come out of I don't want to say retirement, but would he come back to coach if he didn't think he had some sort of inside track on some sort of quarterback that's coming in? Like, the Jets job doesn't scream to me like, hey, you want your next opportunity to be a head coach? Come on here. No, I think he has some inside knowledge that there will be some type of acquisition here. And I'm wondering if it's kind of been worked on behind the scenes a little bit more here. Tigo, I want to hear your thoughts on all this.
So I think the biggest thing that when it came to the Nathaniel Hackett hire, he was my favorite guy. Of all of the guys that were out there, I said, I want Nathaniel Hackett. And it's because Nathaniel Hackett is like the bizarro Mike LaFleur in the sense of they run the same scheme. They're both wide zone running schemes, West Coast system. They both come from that Shanahan tree of play calling. So the verbiage, the language was all going to be the same. But here's what I mean. He was like, he's the opposite of what Mike LaFleur was. Mike was, how can I get my quarterbacks to throw the ball 60, 70, 80 times a game? Where Nathaniel Hackett is a run first offensive coordinator. And I think ultimately that's why the Jets pursued him, is because we wanted to run the ball first. And that's not trying to take anything away from Garrett Wilson or Elijah Moore, but when you have a running back room that is Breece Hall, Michael Carter, James Robinson, Bam Knight. I know a lot of people are going to like it when I say this, but Ty Johnson's probably coming back. Like, all of these guys, when you have these guys that have that ability to just get the ball and just explode down the field, and you get a guy who's manufactured an offense based off of a running tech for a lot, like with like just so many yardage and running back by committees and all of these things, it made a lot of sense. But I think you hit the head like perfectly, Ryan, when you said he could have taken a year off. He could have sat there, collected a couple $1 million, sitting on a beach, drinking Mai Tais and hanging out. And him coming to the Jets is a massive risk because the last coach who lost his job as a head coach and immediately got hired hasn't come back as a coordinator in the NFL, and that's Jay Gruden. Got fired from the Redskins, came back to the NFL as an offensive coordinator, got fired immediately, and he just came back to the NFL this year as an assistant, as an offensive assistant. So why would you take that big of a risk if you don't really believe that you're going to be able to turn it around and fix it?
Buffalo, I want to hear your thoughts on this as well. What do you think about Rodgers possibly not following Hackett?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to just follow one particular coach. A lot of things are going to come in to play. The money shouldn't a ton because it's already his same contract from Green Bay, obviously weapons, where he wants to live, for the best chance to win. But now some may say that Woody Johnson and the Jets brass made a shameless plug dangling Nathaniel Hackett in front of Aaron Rodgers. And I would say I agree, and I'm fully here for it. I absolutely. Because with Hackett, look, I think with the Jets offensive coordinator search, I had a feeling we were going to get a guy within that same tier, like a Bevel, Greg Olsen, Nathaniel Hackett. I think you could throw into that same bunch, guys who have experience, some good experience, some bad experience. And if one of those guys increases your chances of getting a Hall of Fame quarterback, then okay, fine. We weren't going to get Frank Reich as our offensive coordinator. That was never going to happen. So I'm totally fine with it. I think if you get an Aaron Rodgers or even a Derek Carr, I think the offensive coordinator, it's very important. I think it matters less. I think if we were trying to reboot Zach or if we were drafting a new quarterback to develop, I think I'd be much more concerned about the offensive coordinator position. But if Aaron Rodgers comes here, he can call the damn plays himself. I don't care.
I love it. Yeah, we don't need an offensive coordinator when you have an all-time great quarterback back there. What the heck is everyone all worked up about? I got one more clip for us to listen to. This is talking about the conversations that are going on in Green Bay that Aaron Rodgers is apparently not a part of the discussion with.
It sounds like there's already conversations going on that aren't involving me, which are interesting. Honestly, I've been insulated to a lot of that. Like I said, I was in Nashville, and then I'll be up here, this week playing in the tournament. So I'm not a part of those conversations right now. When I make up my mind one way or another, then you guys and Packers, not in that order, and everybody else will know at some point.
So Aaron Rodgers saying that he's not a part of any conversations that are going on in Green Bay right now. I talked about this a little bit earlier today, and my thought on this is that he's referring, he's probably a little upset that Green Bay is not including him in the conversation. I think that his ego is hurt maybe a little bit more so than there's something out of place. I think the conversation that's going on in Green Bay right now is the conversation that really needs to happen, and it's, hey, do we like Jordan Love? Do we like Jordan Love enough to move on from Aaron Rodgers? Are we sure that we're not doing something really dumb and giving up on Rodgers like 5 years too early or something silly like that? I think those are the conversations they're trying to have, because if they can make a fair and honest evaluation about Jordan Love, then they can go to Aaron Rodgers and say, all right, look, we're going to move forward with this. We're going to try and move you, and we're going to have all these plans worked out and whatnot. And I think both sides are almost trying not to be the bad guy. Like, Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to say, I don't want to play in Green Bay, because he doesn't want to be the guy that fled Green Bay. And Green Bay doesn't want to be the guy that was like, oh, we're trading Rodgers because, we're just going to try Jordan Love, even though we've only seen like one game out of Jordan Love, and Aaron Rodgers is one of the best of all time, and we might be able to win a championship. Like, no one wants egg on their face. And to me, that's kind of where this whole thing sort of went. So, Buffalo, I'm going to start with you. What were your thoughts on Rodgers' comments here?
Yeah, it was interesting too, because Pat McAfee, he also said that he was going to wait on his decision because he wanted this week to be about the Super Bowl and not about him. And I'm like, bro, you want it to be about you. Like, I want you on my team. It's all good, but you want it to be about you. You want everyone talking about you. It's hard to believe that they have exit interviews, and it's hard to believe that they haven't really touched base with Aaron about this. But that's the big question, Ryan, that you asked, is can Jordan Love play? That's the biggest question, because if Jordan Love can play, then the Packers can go get some picks to support their new quarterback, and they can do that and go to bed and sleep like a baby. It's all good. We got our next guy. If Jordan Love can't play, then maybe they missed out on having another 2 years of Aaron Rodgers where they can go to the playoffs in the NFC, and which I think he would still be the best quarterback in the conference over there. Jalen Hurts or even Brady at this age better than Aaron Rodgers. I don't know about that. So that's the big question. I think that they're probably kicking themselves, hindsight being 2020, that with Aaron Rodgers having a broken thumb this year and with them still not making the playoffs, they didn't throw Jordan Love out there for 6 games. Let's see if this kid can play, and then maybe they would have gotten their answer, because eventually they can't just let Love's rookie contract run out. Some other team is going to sign a former first-round pick to give him a shot. So that's the biggest question. Can Jordan Love play? I have no idea. It's going to be really, really interesting. I think, like you said, neither one wants to be the bad guy. They want it to be kind of a clean breakup if it does end up going that way. So I think if he is traded, though, I think it's got to be the Jets. Whether he plays with the Packers, he's going to play. He's not leaving $100 million on the table. If he is traded, I have a feeling it's here.
Tigo, how about you? How you feeling about Rodgers' comments there and that he's not included in any conversation that's going on in Green Bay right now?
I think he's lying, like just straight up, because like the rumor already came out that they have told that that Green Bay wants to move on from Aaron Rodgers, right? And for all of the things that Aaron Rodgers does really, really well, the one thing that we all know, and Buffalo alluded to it, is that this guy has a massive ego, right? And that's fine, and we all know that. That massive ego is attached to a cannon of an arm that's accurate, right? And I'd love to have him on my football team. This isn't me trying to, but you can totally see that I think he's trying to use the Pat McAfee show and these comments as leverage, as, hey, you're not going to just trade me wherever I want, because that retirement card is a real thing. Because if you trade me to Washington, you know what? I'm going to retire, and they're not going to want to do anything. And that's just that's it. So I'm going to decide where I'm going to go, even though I don't have a no trade clause. You're not going to just do whatever you want. And it's his attempt to try to say, you know what? I'm going to take reins of this situation. It's my career. You guys are the ones that messed up by drafting Jordan Love and trying to push me out and doing all these things. I'm not going to let you control the narrative, and I'm not going to let you just send me wherever you want. I'm going to control where I go. I'm going to go ring chase where I think it's the best situation. And that was his attempt of trying to do that, while also, like you said, Ryan, being the nice guy.
Yeah, it's interesting to kind of hear that take on things, because I definitely think he wants to leverage that for sure. I think him being on the Pat McAfee show, it's him helping out Pat. It's him, making the story all about himself, like Buffalo said. And it's like, oh, I don't want to make it about me. Oh, yeah, you'll wait a few weeks when all the news is dead. It'll be all about Aaron Rodgers. It'll be everything everyone's talking about. And even though you say you don't want it to be about you right now, it's all we're talking about anyway. I don't know. This is going to be really interesting to see where it all shakes out. Now, Green Bay said they weren't going to trade him to an NFC team, or at least that's what we've kind of heard. Tigo, is there someone in the AFC you think contends with the Jets either better or could provide a more lucrative trade offer? I know Buffalo said he felt like the Jets were probably going to be the option when if Rodgers is traded. How do you fall on this, Tigo? Who's the biggest threat?
Ironically, probably the Raiders, right? Because even though that seems like Tom Brady's going there, 100%, in the AFC, there's this weird thing where the teams that need quarterbacks are in position to draft quarterbacks. So are you going to send the 7th overall pick for Aaron Rodgers at the end of his career when you can use the 7th pick on a quarterback that might be there? Same thing goes with the Colts. The Colts are at 4. Are you going to go out and trade or sign a big free agent when I don't know. It's one of those things where there's a lot of these teams that in the AFC that could be in Houston, but Houston's picking 2. Why would they trade for Rodgers? Set up the next 15 years of your franchise instead of the next 2 or 3. And so the only real threat I look at is the Raiders. And I don't really think that they're going to be in the mix for a guy like Rodgers. I just don't think that's a realistic. If it's an AFC team that he's going to, I think it has to be the Jets.
I think if he has his way, I think it'll be the Jets. The team I'm concerned with, I think, is Tennessee, because that's where Matt LaFleur is from initially. It sounds like they're probably going to move on from Ryan Tannehill. You got the last few years of Derrick Henry there. Rodgers does have property in Nashville. I think there's, some fear maybe there. Matt, what are your thoughts on all of this? What do you think about Rodgers maybe not having a say in some of these conversations here?
Yeah, I was thinking you took it out of my mouth. I was going to say Tennessee or Vegas for the two other teams in the AFC that I think could potentially be in play. And it does seem a little bit bizarre if that's the case, right? Like if we're going to take his word at face value, that he really hasn't been involved in the situation. I would imagine that you would think it'd be open communication. And if they were looking to trade him, you got to make sure it's a place that he wants to go. Obviously, you need some sort of leverage so you can get something in return and not get absolutely fleeced. But maybe they shouldn't call Joe Douglas if that's the case. But moral of the story is I find it a little bit bizarre that there seems to be a disconnect right now between Rodgers and the Packers. But this is the drama I feel like we see every offseason with them, whether it was back with Farve or the last couple of years with Rodgers. It's going to play out for a couple more weeks, and hopefully we have an answer a couple of weeks after the Super Bowl.
Matt, you said a really interesting word. You said leverage in there, and I think you're spot on with the, what is he trying to do? He wants to be able to pick where he wants to go. He didn't get a no-trade clause. So in his mind, the retirement card is his no-trade clause, as Tigo alluded to, hey, I'm just going to retire if you're going to send me to Washington. Well, Washington's leverage, or any other team that then trades for Aaron Rodgers, is $110 million. Is Aaron Rodgers going to leave $110 million over the course of the next 2 years on the table? I don't think that's going to happen. Not to mention, he's only made $300 million in his 18-year career. He's about to make 25% of his career earnings in 2 seasons. I would be flabbergasted if this guy did not play, wherever he winds up getting traded. Buffalo, I want to flip it back to you. Do you think Rodgers is going to have a say in where he gets traded, or do you think that money is going to be the forcing, the factor that forces him to kind of continue going regardless?
Yeah, he doesn't have an official no trade clause, but I mean, Green Bay is not going to ship him to Siberia after over a decade long and winning them a Super Bowl. They're going to have a conversation with him. You mentioned the Titans. Vegas is a popular destination, but they're broke. They're stripping their team for parts. They couldn't even afford to fire their coach. I don't know how because with Aaron, this is where it actually matters to have a rich owner, even with the salary cap, because there's a bunch of money that isn't cap money that Woody Johnson would have to fork over to pay Aaron right away. Does Vegas have that kind of money? I don't know. It's gotten to the point now where I think if Aaron Rodgers stays in Green Bay, that's fine. But if he is traded and it's not to the Jets and it's not for crazy value, I think I'm going to be kind of ticked off. I don't know. Am I crazy? Am I getting my hopes up too high?
I don't think so. I think you have just the right amount of hopes with everything we've seen from Joe Douglas and how he formulates trades and everything. I think you're spot on there. All right, let's jump into a few of our super chats that have come in. Carlos drops in with a 21-month member super chat. Thank you, Carlos. Says Rodgers is not realistic. It's Carr. The sleeper is Minshew. Cheap and will be able to keep all draft capital. I feel he's going to do really well. Carlos, I could not disagree with you more. At all. My gut feeling, as much as I really want Carr, I hope the Jets are in line, first in line for Carr. The minute he gets released, or if there's trade conversations, whatever, the Jets need to be having these conversations with the Raiders. My gut feeling is that Rodgers is plan A, as we all believe. I think Jimmy G is plan B. And the thing that makes me sick to my stomach, you know what plan C is? Ryan Tannehill. And I really don't love that. Matt, I want to hear your thoughts on Carlos A's comment right here. Rodgers, not realistic. Carr and Minshew seem like better options.
Why is it not realistic is what I want to know. What has Carlos seen over the last month of these conversations and rumors where it's there's no way that this is going to happen, with Woody Johnson coming out and saying that he wants to spend money, with the Jets using, 7 picks in the top 40 in the last 2 years. If there was ever a time for them to be able to afford to trade something to get in a high-priced guy, it's now. And his cap hit isn't even really that bad for next year. It's $15 million. I don't get this one. I'm not anti-Carr. I like Derek Carr a lot. But Minshew at this point, like if it's Gardner, Minshew, Mike White, and Zach Wilson, then Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh might as well just start packing their bags now because they'll go 7-10 again and all get fired.
Completely agree. Tigo, your thoughts on Carlos A's comment here? Rodgers not realistic, and Carr and Minshew would be better options.
No, Matt said everything that needed to be said. What did you see? What report? What insider like that makes you believe that it's not realistic? You know, what in Green Bay's history makes you think that they're going to stick with the aging veteran over the young guy that they drafted in the first round? They've done this before, right? Like this happened to Rodgers. Rodgers was Jordan Love at some point in time in his career. Like it just feels like that relationship is fractured. And whether Rodgers is a Jet or not a Jet, and I agree with what you said, Ryan, I think it makes the most sense for everybody is that Rodgers is a Jet. Even if he's not in Green Bay next year. So that still makes it incredibly realistic. And while I'm more optimistic that I think Derek Carr is legitimately in the running for the New York Jets quarterback spot, and I don't think we wait on Rodgers super long, because I don't think we're going to give up the opportunity on passing on Carr. And I don't think Jimmy's on the list at all. Brock Purdy ruined Jimmy for me. If you're telling me the last pick in the draft can run that San Francisco offense all the way to the Super Bowl, I believe it's more Kyle Shanahan than Jimmy G. He scares the crap out of me.
Buffalo, how about you? How you feeling about Carlos's comment here?
I think maybe if he just worded it like Carr is more realistic, maybe, because the Raiders have made it clear that he's not going to be a Raider. So I think Carr is more realistic because he's certainly available. But I think Aaron Rodgers, if it's not realistic, it's been like the biggest smoke screen job of every single reporter, even Bill Simmons going as far to say is like it's been done, it's a handshake agreement, and they're waiting for the word to be official. But I think, we've seen a lot like, JD would never trade for Tyreek Hill, right? That wouldn't be realistic. We weren't taking a corner at 4. You wouldn't trade up for a running back. Matt Stafford wouldn't be traded. Russell Wilson wouldn't be traded. Deshaun Watson wouldn't be traded. Peyton Manning wouldn't switch teams. Brett Favre, like I think, Sean Payton's not going to go. I just think we have to, as Jet fans, like a good thing can happen to us. And look at Matt O'Leary, guys. When Matt O'Leary was in kindergarten, now if you know this, he told his teacher, one day, I'm going to talk about the Adam Gase Jets for 3 years, and eventually I'm going to make a full-time job out of it. And she said, Matt, you're crazy. You have to go to school. You have to focus on your studies. That is unrealistic. But here is Matt O'Leary. If Matt O'Leary can do that, then why the hell can't Aaron Rodgers be on the Jets?
I wanted to be a dinosaur when I grow up. Matt just absolutely blew me out of the water. You wanted to grow up and talk about Adam Gase, Matt?
I did. I wrote that down. I could get my journal from kindergarten and show you, but yeah, true story.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Buffalo, I think you may have the best one-liners of any of the Jet people that I've seen on Twitter. I fucking love it. If you guys don't follow Buffalo Jet Fan on Twitter, you got it. It's a good follow.
Best.
Well, let's be honest. I say a lot of stuff on Twitter, so there's a blind squirrel nut situation there. But I appreciate the compliment.
Daryl Hines drops in, says, when, for a Buffalo Jet fan, we get Aaron Rodgers, should he wear number 12? Absolutely. Joe Namath said he'd give up number 12 to let Rodgers wear it. 100%. No problem. No issues there whatsoever. Matt, should Aaron Rodgers wear number 12?
1000% yes. Everyone knows that Joe Namath sold his soul to the devil in order for the Jets to win that Super Bowl. And to reverse the curse, you need to take the 12 out of retirement, slap it on Rodgers' jersey. He wins the Super Bowl. The two of them gets put up there, then build a statue outside of them, like interlocking arms and hugging or something. Like, whatever you got to do. This is the way to break the curse. Yes.
Super Bowl one. Well, not Super Bowl one, but first Super Bowl for the Jets. Joe Namath is in a 1. The second Super Bowl for the Jets, Aaron Rodgers is in the 12. And you got 1, 2. It's a 12 right there. Perfect number, perfect harmony. Tigo, should Aaron Rodgers wear number 12 as a Jet?
Absolutely. The statue should not be both of them both wearing 12. It should be Namath handing Rodgers the 12, and then the 2 Lombardis from back-to-back Super Bowls are on the ground behind Rodgers. The 1 Super Bowl is behind, Namath. Like, that's, I was never a big guy into the whole, retire numbers and all this stuff. I was just like, I don't care. We're 12, we're 10, we're 8, we're 21. Like, I honestly don't care. So if he wants to wear 12 and Namath is cool with it, why should we have anything to say about it at all? the only two parties that really should care about it are in agreement. Now, if Tom were to wear 12, I'm done. Incorrect.
Nope, sorry.
Not allowed.
Ejected.
Not allowed.
That's it. You're out of here.
Buffalo. Should Aaron Rodgers wear number 12?
Yeah, you can wear 12, you get the jacket, the cigar, you can kiss the reporter, the whole nine, as long as it ends in that same thing being a Super Bowl ring. Now, I will say that I have a little bit more nostalgia for the jerseys and the Ring of Honor and things. I actually think we should have a lot more players in our Ring of Honor. And I think as a franchise, we should do more to honor some of the great players. I know we haven't had a ton of success, but we have had some pretty damn good players. And I think we should do a better job to keep them like as a part of the franchise. It's a topic for a different day, but I think it'd be ideal to me if Aaron Rodgers said, Namath, I appreciate it, but I could never wear your number in jet screen. I'm going to change my number. To me, that would be the ideal scenario there. But is the jersey number going to be a deal breaker for me getting a quarterback? It's not. But I'd appreciate it if Aaron Rodgers gave a little tip of the cap to Namath and maybe went with a different number.
Yeah, I could see him maybe wearing the Cal 8 again instead of the 12 that he's donned his entire career. We shall see. Harry W. celebrates 21 months of membership. Thank you so much, Harry. He says, Woody would have to put the full amount of all guaranteed money in escrow, including Rodgers' $60 million guaranteed. Is it just guaranteed? I think is it the entire contract or just guaranteed money? Do you guys know that?
Farve, I don't. Expert, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I do know this. Basically,
it's only the guarantee.
Okay, so basically what Harry's getting at here is the guaranteed money has to be put in escrow. So you need a really wealthy owner to be able to put a massive contract just on ice. You have to have all that money. It's not, the designated salary cap space. It's weird. The NFL is the only league, I think, that does that. I think everyone else doesn't have the same kind of like escrow rules.
I think the NHL has an escrow rule like that.
It's weird. I don't like it. It's very uncomfortable. But yeah, I guess it's an issue for Rodgers, including Rodgers' $60 million guaranteed. So it's going to have to be $110 million guaranteed, Harry W, because he's 110 over these next 2 years. Basically, it's like Matt alluded to earlier. It's a $15 million cap hit 2023, $32 million cap hit 2024. And then there's a $60 million dead cap hit in 2025 that you could split up over 25 and 26 if you didn't want to have it all hit in 25. Although I think next year the new TV contracts hit the salary cap, so we're probably going to be looking, by the time 2025 rolls around, you're probably looking like $300 million salary cap in just 3 years' time. So it may be a drop in the bucket at that point. But it'll be something interesting to discuss when it comes up. The NY Bully comes in and says, everyone complaining about Aaron Rodgers' contract are the same people that buy off-brand cereal. LOL, Rodgers is coming to the Big Apple. All right, so I want to go around the panel, and I want to ask your guys, what is your favorite off-brand item from a store? If you had to say, like, okay, I'm okay going with, dollar store, whatever, or I don't know. I don't even remember. Good and Fresh or whatever the Target brand is. What is your go-to store brand item? Buffalo, I'll throw it to you first.
It's funny because I didn't have the super chat on my screen, and when you said are the same people, like if you give me a million guesses, I wouldn't have guessed that we were going off-brand cereal. I will say Cinnamon Toast Crunch is my favorite cereal. But in this economy, when that's getting up to $7 a box, I will sometimes, I'm ashamed to admit, settle for Cinny Mini Crunch.
Wow.
I know. Ooh.
I love it. Tigo, what about you? What's your store brand item?
Oh, actually, this is one of those things where it's just like I don't know. Like I guess the one that's most recently happened is we're cereal fiends here at the Tigo household, especially my wife now because she's pregnant, and so she's all up on the cereals, and so we have all of the cereals. And then there was one time where she really wanted Frosted Flakes, but we didn't have any. And for some reason, instead, the Walmart that we were going to didn't have them for whatever reason, because it was the closest place that was open at 11. And so we were like, I guess we'll just get the Great Value Frosted Flakes. And it's weird little polar bear things. And I was just like, well, I guess this works.
What about you, Matt? What is your store brand thing?
I think most recent example. So usually, like for the K cups for the Keurig, I'll go with like the donut shop or like the Dunkin' Donuts brand ones. But I got the Kirkland brand, a big box from Costco. It was actually pretty good. So no hate to Costco; they are goats.
I should use the Kirkland brand diapers because we use those for a little bit, and they're great because they're made by Huggies.
I've heard great things about the Kirkland diapers. The same thing. So Kirkland used to sell golf balls that were the identical ball to the Pro V1. For you guys that are golfers out there, the Pro V1 is like the premier ball for golf. And I guess Kirkland was getting the ball from the same factory over in China or the Philippines or wherever they're made. And Pro V1 and Titleist got pissed off at him, and they're like, "Oh, what the heck? You can't be advertising that. You got a $24 dozen of balls versus like a $50 dozen of balls." So Kirkland's a good one. I like anything from Trader Joe's is pretty good as far as that goes. For me, I don't know. I guess it's I guess it's Trader Joe's brand. They have a jalapeno sauce that is absolutely awesome. I'll throw that on like any kind of little thing that I would use a dip on. It's almost like a dressing, but it's you wouldn't use it as a dressing. I wouldn't want to put it on a salad, but like cold cuts, cheese, topping on a burger, you could throw that thing on anything. Absolutely love it. Trader Joe's. Incredible. Let's see. We got Sneakers to Boots dropping in. Sneakers to Boots says, Jets better make the first quarterback domino fall. Yeah, I hope it's us that has the first domino that falls because it's got to be Aaron Rodgers. Has to be. If Woody Johnson is going to spend any amount of money to right the ship, he's got to be able to not get beat out by someone else for a quarterback. Buffalo, you think the Jets make the first move for a quarterback this offseason?
I do. I hope so. And even if it is Derek Carr, I'm going to assume they did their homework on Rodgers. I'm not going to split the family up on Carr versus Rodgers. If you're shopping in that aisle, we got people on Jets Twitter saying, Gardner Minshew and then draft Stetson Bennett behind him. Okay, so if you've seen the lights and you're Carr, Rodgers, those are the I would prefer Rodgers, but I would be stoked if Derek Carr was a Jet too. So I hope either one, because that means they kind of got their first choice, I'm guessing. So yeah, I would hope they make the first domino fall.
Tigo, Jet's going to be the first one to sign a quarterback?
Oh yeah. Joe Douglas, for all of the things that we can say about him, one thing that nobody in their right mind can say about him is that he's stupid. And he is not, right? He is not going to sit around and wait for the possibility of Aaron Rodgers and let Derek Carr walk away and Tannehill walk away and Jimmy G walk away and insert any other dominoes at QB that may fall. He knows that his team is a quarterback away. He knows that there's that pseudo fake kind of real playoff mandate for the team. I think in 2 weeks' time, we're going to know who's going to be under center for the New York Jets next year. Whether it's Derek Carr, whether it's Aaron Rodgers, whatever it is, we're going to know in 2 weeks' time, because I don't think any team is going to let Derek Carr sit on the market for more than a day. So if February 15th comes, boom, he's going to be a New York Jet. And if not, the trade for Aaron Rodgers is going to be made with a post-June 1st designation.
Ooh, Matt, Jets first ones to sign a quarterback?
Yes. They're the aggressive ones. They do it. I hope Tigo is not correct with it being 2 weeks, because 2 weeks from today is Valentine's Day. And I don't know about you guys, but I think it's going to be tough to get a video off on that Tuesday evening. So, yeah, maybe the 15th or the 13th. Can we wiggle that in there?
So I have no problem with it dropping on Valentine's Day because Beck and I do things on non-Valentine's Day because it sucks trying to get a restaurant reservation. We try to do the weekend before or the weekend after. Weekend after is better because everyone has done stuff the week before. But good stuff, Buffalo. I'm hoping the Jets are the first ones to make a move because I know what happens in our Jets fanhood. Generally, we're not going to make the first move. Someone else is going to sign Derek Carr. We're going to say, oh, shit, we got to make a move. Throw all the ones. 5 ones. We're sending them all to Green Bay. We got to get Aaron Rodgers. That's going to be the panic move. Like, Carr gets signed. Jimmy Garoppolo gets signed. Rodgers is like, oh, I guess I'm coming back now. That's the panic move. I don't want that to happen. Jets got to
if
get their
Carr
guy.
falls early, then the price for Rodgers goes up, right? You got to think.
Absolutely. You sign Rodgers first. I think you get that, like you said, you get that little bit of a discount by not having to have your back against the wall. Carr, if he waits, his value is going to get higher and higher too. So it's probably in his benefit to not sign right away. But we shall see. Good stuff there. Sneakers to boots. Justin Crazy dropping it with a big time super chat. You're going to jump the line. Blitz Crew, Left Coast Jets, and AP. I'll get right back to your super chats in just a second. Justin Crazy says, what are your guys' thoughts about LaFleur getting a job with the Rams? I think it tells me that Mike LaFleur was the scapegoat. I think there had to be a change because of how poorly Zach Wilson has done, and it's far cheaper to move on from Mike LaFleur than it is to move on from Zach Wilson. And they just had to reclaim something. And I think you saw how valuable LaFleur was because he went right over to the Rams. And, I understand the Rams are not going to be most likely not winning anything next year, but I think he's a really good offensive coordinator. We had wide receivers running wide open all the time. He just needs a veteran quarterback to be able to operate his offense because of all the intricacies and complexities that it involves, I think. I think LaFleur was scapegoated, even if you don't agree with like all his calls there. Tigo, I want to get your thoughts on this first.
Yeah, I was one of the very few people that kind of believed the story that was sold to all of us, which was like, yeah, I think it was just a mutual parting. I don't remember who said it. It was someone on the panel said it in their thing where like LaFleur almost, I think it was you, Buffalo, that said it in one of your videos where it's like, it almost felt like LaFleur was bummed and burdened with the fact that he had to like groom and develop a young quarterback kind of a thing. And so him going to LA is kind of the perfect fit. He's going to go under another guy who runs a West Coast system at an insanely high level, has won a ton. And then Matt put it out in a tweet like moments later after the LaFleur got announced. It was just like, yeah, he's going to be a head coach in 2025 probably. Like that's just the reality of it, right? If you accidentally brush up on Sean McVay once in an airport, you're getting head coaching offers. Right. So like that's just the reality of it. And I agree, Ryan. I don't think he was that bad. But he wasn't great either. He had things that he needed to work on, and I think LA is going to give him a great spot to do that.
Buffalo, I want to get your thoughts on this. What do you think about LaFleur getting a job with the Rams right away?
It did make me go, huh? Like, if he kind of had to wait on the market longer, or not that I wasn't rooting for him, but it changes, it shifts your lens on the firing a little bit. To be honest, you're not going to find me waxing poetic about Mike LaFleur's offensive genius. I mean, we did go the last 13 games of the season without scoring a touchdown. The last 9 quarters, I don't know if you guys know this, we didn't take a snap inside the opponent's 10, and a pass didn't travel into the end zone. A target was not thrown into the end zone, like complete or incomplete, tried it.
Jesus.
Pass didn't go to the end zone for 9 quarters. So, like, people have been fired for a lot less in the NFL. Head coach, I think it was it Schottenheimer or Turner got fired after 14-2. Mangini getting fired because Farve hurt his arm. So I think with LaFleur, he wasn't maybe the biggest problem, but I don't know if he was the solution. I was kind of apathetic towards the LaFleur to Hackett firing. To me, it was just the sort of the public relations of, look, we had a disastrous season. Someone had to go. So in my opinion, it could be true that Mike LaFleur, A, was scapegoated, and B, maybe wasn't that good at his job. And also, he's not calling plays. Like, it's a good spot for him, but he's OC in title, but essentially he's really the passing game coordinator again. I think he was just a young guy who was given a job one step higher than he was ready to do. You're gonna develop a rookie quarterback right out of a small school with no veteran backup at the time, for a defensive-minded head coach who's a rookie, youngest roster in the league after the passing of Greg Knapp. Like, that was a really tough job. But I don't have any evidence that tells me Mike LaFleur was a good OC or that I don't know. I just don't know about him. So we'll see. Good for him. I think he gets another job as an OC in a couple of years, but I don't know. I'm not crying that he's gone.
Yeah, it's almost like a situation where LaFleur left Shanahan and it was like, oh, well, it was Shanahan that was doing all the work. And then it was like, okay, well, that's the same reason that Bieniemy never got an offense or got a head coaching job. It's because Andy Reid was calling the plays. And it's the same type of mindset there. Matt, I want to hear your thoughts. What did you think when you saw Mike LaFleur got hired by the Rams?
I think it's a perfect spot for him. Like, honestly, he's going to go with someone who obviously has a connection with that same kind of style of offense, and he's one of the best at calling plays in that style of offense. Pretty much anyone who is remotely close to Sean McVay gets hired as a head coach. Staley, Zach Taylor, the other LaFleur. Like it's totally possible that Mike LaFleur gets a job now. And like the tweet was half tongue in cheek, but it really wouldn't shock me at all if he was a head coach 2 years from now, because, you know, he's a part of one of the more successful offenses in the league.
Blitz Crew drops in and says, I see Lazard coming along with Rodgers. Can we get Bakhtiari under the cap too and retain our guys? It would be interesting to see if the Jets tied the number 13 pick to also acquiring Bakhtiari on a restructured contract. Because if you think maybe he doesn't go to the Jets, or I don't know, I feel like he would follow Rodgers, and I think Green Bay is going to be forced to cut him anyway. I don't know. I would think Bakhtiari has a better chance of coming to New York than Lazard. I think Lazard is coming off, I believe it's his rookie contract, if I'm not mistaken, and he has not been paid like a big contract yet. So why would he want to come here? I don't particularly want to pay top dollar for someone. I do like Lazard because of the height that he provides is different than some of the other wide receivers we have here. But I tend to see Lazard maybe not following Rodgers, and maybe Bakhtiari and Cobb would be the two that I would expect. Matt, what are your thoughts on Lazard coming here? You think you see it happening?
I think it's exactly what the Jets need. A big wide receiver who's a red zone threat and is a great blocker. With Corey Davis likely out, it's pretty much a 1-for-1 swap, and Lazard's a little bit younger. I think he's 1 year younger than Corey Davis. I like it. I would prefer Lazard over Bakhtiari coming here. He's played 11, 1, and 12 games over the last 3 years. Injuries are starting to pile up on him. Last thing the Jets need is another injury-prone tackle. He's great when he's on the field, but health and availability matters. So, yeah, I'll probably pass on him, but Lazard, yes.
Tigo, what do you think about Lazard coming to the Jets?
So you are kind of right, Ryan, with this whole. He's not on his rookie deal. He was actually on
RFA?
He was tendered. Yeah, he was on RFA.
Yeah.
Because when he left Jacksonville. So he is probably looking for his payday, right? Especially because he's an older player to finally hit free agency, where like normally you would hit free agency at like 24, 25 or 26. He's 27, going to be 28. He's probably going to want the bag from a team, but it's one of those things where some players took pay cuts to go to Tampa to ring chase. And a lot of those like guys, while they were older, some of those guys were in their 20s and they were ring chasing, and they took inexpensive deals, and now they've got rings. And so you got to look at that there. I love the idea of an Allen Lazard, but only if the like Braxton Berrios and Corey Davis are gone. So now we have a big hole and a big need for like a wide receiver 4 to come into the building. But if you're telling me like we're just cutting Corey Davis and we're keeping Braxton Berrios, I don't know about paying a wide receiver $10 million to bring him in. And I think if 13 is the pick for Rodgers, which I think is what it'll ultimately end up costing, I have no problem bringing in Bakhtiari, but I'm not trading for him. At 26,
well, I'm
26
saying
or $28 million? Cap
28 million
is
is his cap hit. It's not what it would be if he was traded. I think you would restructure his deal anyway. I don't think you would actually keep him on his current deal. But let me pull it up real quick.
I think they know, and you know, that they need to move on from him. They're not going to keep him around. And so
here's something interesting. If traded, he's actually a $15 million tackle instead, because his signing bonus was so massive that comes off the books. He's got a base salary of $6.7 million, and he has a roster bonus of $9.5. So $16 million, maybe somewhere in there. I mean, it's still rich. I don't want to pay him quite that much, and I think he is going to get cut. I don't know. We'll see.
And it fixes our tackle thing. So I'm cool with Bakhtiari. I'm not anti-Bakhtiari.
Yeah, my thought process with trading for him would be restructuring that contract as well, and then you just get the tackle for essentially your 13. It looks like value. They were going to move off from him, and we get him, in the same swooping motion. Buffalo Jet fan, I want to hear your thoughts on Lazard or Bakhtiari coming to the Jets.
Bakhtiari, a couple of years ago, was maybe the best left tackle, second best left tackle to Trent Williams in football. But and I think I'd be willing to take a chance on a guy that talented coming off injury if it was a different position. I'm too scarred with the offensive tackle injuries. I think if we give big money to an older injured tackle and he comes here and he's injured, we're just going to feel really stupid. So I have a feeling that they'll try and solve that in the draft. Hopefully, if we do end up trading for Rodgers, if we can maybe make that first round pick be in 2024 and keep 13, we'll see and make that be our tackle. Lazard's interesting because I think Matt hit it right in the head. He's very similar to Corey Davis. He could step in and be that Z. He's a little bit more durable than Corey. But my thing with Lazard, number one, I wouldn't want to spend on wide receiver until after we have quarterback, offensive line, and we've paid Quinnen. If there's money left over to do that and we want to bring in Lazard, that's fine. But I'm looking at this wide receiver room and I'm like, okay, well, what is Elijah Moore like with Aaron Rodgers? What is that? Even like Denzel Mims. I'm not a Denzel Mims truther. He's not a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2, but could Denzel Mims, give you 600 yards and a couple of touchdowns with Aaron Rodgers? And he's making an eighth of the salary of Allen Lazard, and we know Mims can block. So I think it's most likely maybe you run out Mims and there's like a 3rd round pick at receiver. I just think that there's an inflation in Lazard's value because he played with Rodgers, and our wide receivers value is at like an all-time low. And I think maybe once Rodgers comes over, then we get that benefit without having to pay for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's actually, I made a video about this and the hidden value of bringing in someone like Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers as well. And it's that hidden value of, like you said, Denzel Mims, Elijah Moore. I'll go one step further. I'll say Laken Tomlinson. I'll say even Zach Wilson. Guys that have had, guys who have played, little lackluster, little underperforming. It's not necessarily a talent issue. I mean, it very well may. We may find that out. But at least you swap the part and then maybe you get more production out of them. Now, maybe you have to worry about a little regression from some of your other players in that same respect because you can't expect, maybe better stuff from one area and maybe holding the same the other. But I do think that we have some talented guys, and I think the Jets are going to be able to unlock a little bit more of that hidden potential like you alluded to, Buffalo. So good stuff, Blitzkrieg. Good question. Left Coast Jets says, "Are you all a fan of Caleb Williams? And if this next season doesn't work out for us, would you be opposed to drafting another USC quarterback? Albeit, if we're choosing Caleb, we're probably getting a new coach." The Jets are not going to be in on Caleb Williams. I would be very surprised because I do think we do get Aaron Rodgers, and I think we're going to be ring hunting for 2 years. And I think the way I don't know if you're going to have to lure Aaron Rodgers here, but I think the Jets are going to give him the Tom Brady treatment in that you're going to give all the assets towards winning a Super Bowl. That's what you are giving to Aaron Rodgers. You're not picking a quarterback early in this draft or early in next year's draft while you're still trying to ring hunt. You need to use every asset you have to surround Aaron Rodgers, to build this team better, to win a ring. And I would say that the same argument holds true if Tom Brady ends up going to either the San Francisco 49ers or more so Vegas, where they have the number 7 pick and they might be looking for a quarterback. I think they're going to go with a tackle at number 7. I think the Titans are absolutely going with a tackle at number 11. And I think it's entirely possible that Houston either takes a tackle at 12 or trades out at number 12 and all 3 tackles go ahead of the New York Jets. It makes me nervous. I'm hoping there's actually a lot of really good tackles that are hitting free agency. I'm hoping some of those teams in front of us get some of those tackles. Maybe they have a little more cap space and, the tackles start to fall a little bit more. So as far as Caleb Williams, I think he's phenomenal. I'm actually shocked that Sean Payton wound up taking the Denver job. I thought for sure the way he was gushing about Caleb Williams, he was going to sit out this year and go to the team that had the number 1 pick for next year. So no, I don't think the Jets are in on quarterback. We're not going to be in on quarterback at the very earliest till 2025. And even then, we may give Zach the shot. If it doesn't work out and we bottom out, we might take the quarterback in 2026. Matt, I want to hear your thoughts on this. Are you a fan of Caleb Williams? And do you think the Jets possibly pull the trigger on a quarterback next year if it doesn't work out this year?
Well, as I always like to say, make sure you scout the helmet when looking at a quarterback. So since USC put out Sam Darnold most recently. You got to pass on Caleb Williams. No, I think he's a stud. He's a stud. He's going to go number 1 overall next year. I don't think the Jets are going to be in on him. I think they are going to be with their veteran quarterback, trying to make a push to win with this roster. Great player. He's going to go somewhere and make a fan base very happy, but it's not going to be ours.
Tigo, what about you?
Sergeant CVO took my thing that I was saying, that I was going to say. This is my whole spiel is, I want Aaron Rodgers, because I want 2 Super Bowls and I think he can win it here. 2, because you can look at the development of Zach, really, and see what happens. Aaron Rodgers is the perfect placeholder for that. But most importantly, I want to finally get our Manning in the right colors in New York, in green. And Peyton was a dick and went back to school. Eli went to the wrong New York team. Let's finally get our Manning. And you go win 2 Super Bowls, you ride it out, and you see what you have with Zach. And then when you find out that it probably isn't it with Zach Wilson, you give a San Francisco 49ers type package. You still have one of the best teams in football because Joe Douglas is a monster in the draft, and you just go get Arch Manning, and boom, dynasty the next 10 years. We turn into just give it to me. I'm just willing that into existence. And so, yeah.
Speak it. Manifest your destiny. Buffalo, I want to hear your thoughts on Caleb Williams and the Jets possibly taking a quarterback next year.
I love Caleb Williams. I think we're not going to suck enough to get Caleb Williams. I don't plan on picking higher than 13th for quite some time. Now, in terms of, I think a lot of us as Jets fans were like, we talk about quarterback options. I'll bring up the draft, and one guy literally said, he super chatted in and he was like, no, never again. And I'm like, well, eventually again, right? And I think to me, the whole we can't develop quarterbacks thing. And well, if we don't trust this brass and this staff to ever take another quarterback and develop him again, then fire everyone now and get people in who can, because eventually how we're going to have sustained success and consistency is going to be have to draft your quarterback. I'm all in to go for Aaron Rodgers now and try and win a ring. It worked with Stafford, it worked with Brady. But if you look at the last 8 teams remaining in the playoffs, they drafted their quarterback. If you look at the best 3 teams we're going to have to beat in the AFC, Burrow and Mahomes now, and they drafted their quarterback. Eventually, we're going to have to do that. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be Caleb Williams because we're going to be picking closer to 32 than 1 in 2024. Or 3, whenever, I don't know, whatever year it is. You know what I mean?
2024. You got it right.
Yeah. Okay.
AP14 drops in. He says, hey, boys, if Rodgers is traded pre-June 1st, Green Bay would take a $99 million dead cap hit. Can this be reworked in his contract? We can't afford to wait until June 1st. I think at the very least, you'll see a handshake agreement where it's like what Tigo sort of said, it'll be designated a post-June 1st move. I don't know if you can designate a post-June 1st move or not, but we've seen trades in concept or in a handshake agreement that got executed later on. The one that sticks out to me is the Alex Smith trade to Washington, where I believe that happened at the Senior Bowl that year, and then he was traded once free agency became once the new league year started, I think. So as far as a $99 million dead cap hit, I think they're going to avoid that anyway by the handshake. At worst case scenario, we have Rodgers June 2nd, but there's also the realistic possibility that Rodgers is going to rework his contract so that way the bonus that would have triggered and crippled Green Bay's cap is kind of, not there until after June 2nd. So maybe his bonus, I think he's got a bonus at the end of March maybe is what it's due. So if they say, hey, that bonus hits June 2nd, then it, maybe it reworks their whole financial situation.
But yeah, Dom mentioned it, and I was going to mention it. You can absolutely designate a trade post June 1st.
Ah, okay, perfect. Yeah, so there's your answer.
I think it was something that was added because of the Alex Smith handshake deal kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. They were like, we don't like that that's happening. So they changed the rule from where it's you can only designate 2 cuts to be post June 1st. You can now designate 2 cuts or trades as post June 1st so that Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to wait around till June 1st to come to New York and start meeting with Hackett and doing all that stuff.
Oh, that makes me feel good. Look at Tigo. Now, follow-up question, Tigo, and Dom C in the chat. You get 2 post-June 1st designations. Is that 2 total between cuts and trades?
Yes.
Good stuff. That's the information I wanted to hear. Knifey Spoony says, if Rodgers comes here, do you think he brings any of his guys along with him, like Brady did when he went to Tampa? Maybe Lazard, maybe Bakhtiari. Yeah, I think he's definitely gonna try and bring some guys. I think the left tackle feels like it makes the most sense. I think that's the one that he wants the most. I do think Cobb would wind up coming here as a replacement for Berrios. I think it's going to be pretty cheap. I think Cobb got paid like $2 million last year, and Braxton Berrios saves us $5 million. So if you want to have a backup slot to Elijah Moore for $1 or $2 million and it makes Rodgers happy, I'm fine with Cobb here for a year. Lazard, like we mentioned a little bit earlier, I think he's going to try and get paid somewhere else because he hasn't had that big contract yet. And then, like I said, I think the tackle's the one that winds up coming here. Buffalo, you see any particular player coming and following Rodgers?
I think it's more like small role players. Like when LeBron James would go to a new team, he'd bring his Shane Battier. So if we lose Braxton Berrios and Cobb comes in as a depth receiver, something like that, I think guys like bigger names like Bakhtiari and Lazard, I think money will talk first.
Tigo, what about you? You think Rodgers is bringing some of his guys with him?
I don't think Rodgers would bring guys with him. I think guys would follow Rodgers, kind of a thing. I don't think, again, Rodgers has way too big of an ego to be like, hey, let's all go to the Jets. He's going to be more the guy like, hey, I'm on the Jets. If you want to come hang out. Like let's just go win a ring in New York. And he's going to do it more laissez-faire. But the only real names that I look at it on the list of players that are on Green Bay that'll come to me are Bakhtiari, Lazard, Cobb, and then I'm not the biggest fan of him, but we do have a need, and he would be cheap, is Adrian Amos. Like we have a needed safety. He might be ring chasing. Green Bay's defense wasn't the best, maybe in a new situation, in a new scheme, but then you're just going back and getting another 30-year-old free safety kind of a thing. It's just, I don't know.
I like Amos. I had Amos in my most recent mock-off season with Rodgers. I think it's a really good swap if you're going to move on from someone like, if you wanted to move on from Whitehead or something. But I do like the idea of bringing him in, and I do think he is going to be pretty cheap. Matt, any players following Rodgers here?
Yeah, you mentioned it with Cobb. That's someone who I haven't talked about yet. I talked about Lazard and Bakhtiari a little bit earlier, but if you're moving on from Braxton Berrios, which I think is probably pretty likely, it will save you $5 million, and let's say you can maybe get, Randall Cobb for like a minimum $1 million deal, and then I could say, okay, as backup depth wide receiver 5, that's fine. And plus, he just for whatever reason, he loves Randall Cobb, and I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world to have a veteran like that with some of these young pup wide receivers. So I think that one makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I saw the stat somewhere, and I don't remember it entirely accurately off the top of my head, but I think Cobb had like 60 catches this year, and like 40 of them went for first downs. It was like something absurd, or like a certain amount of them were like on third downs. So Rodgers does tend to look his way. He just trusts him. Even if you're not a huge Cobb fan, which I'm not particularly, but for $1 million or $2 million, I don't care. F-16 Jet Fuel drops in, says, it's funny how like 18 years ago, Rodgers was annoyed with Farve and his shenanigans. Now he's a mirror image of Farve. Shake my head. Yeah, right. It's like the pot calling the kettle black. Is that how that's the old expression there? I think Rodgers can almost look at New York and say, well, if I win there, I beat Brett Favre. Like that's the goal. If you're looking at Aaron Rodgers and you're saying, okay, where could he go in his career that is going to cement his legacy or going to provide another stepping stone in his legacy? If Aaron Rodgers gets his second Super Bowl anywhere in the country, anywhere at all, are you putting him in any kind of better conversation than he already is right now? Or if he wins a Super Bowl specifically with the New York Jets, a team that hasn't had a Super Bowl championship in over 50 years. We haven't had a franchise quarterback. We've had one break 4,000 yards in our franchise's history. We have one 30-yard touchdown season from Ryan Fitzpatrick. For me, I think I think Aaron Rodgers could come to New York, win a Super Bowl here, and that cements his legacy more than anywhere else he could go. Tigo, I see you shaking your head. What are your thoughts?
It's ironic, right? Because there's only 2 spots in the NFL that would cement his legacy as like one of the best to ever do it. And that's if he came to New York, because winning in New York means more than winning anywhere else, right? Because if you win in New York, you will be loved forever. And it's not even like winning a Super Bowl, you'll be loved forever, right? Like we still love Mark Sanchez, and he gave us our most embarrassing thing ever, Mangold, the same thing. Like, if you're just good in New York, you'll be loved forever. And if you come to New York and you win it here, you'll be able to do the thing that Brett Favre never was able to do at the end of his career. And ironically, the only other spot that he could go that would cement his legacy just the same way if he went to Minnesota and gave them their first ever. And it was one of those things where it's just like, well, he went to both places. Favre did. So I think literally it's the Jets or Minnesota, and Minnesota has Kirk. So he's a Jet. Come on.
And they're not trading him in the NFC specifically to a division rival. That's why they included the 3 first-round pick clause with the Favre contract initially with us. Matt, I want to hear your thoughts. Rodgers and Favre shenanigans. What do you think?
I think Favre was a little bit harsher to Rodgers than Rodgers has been to Love. Maybe that's just recency bias on our parts here, but it just feels that way. And I agree 1000% with Tigo here, saying that it would matter so much more to him, or matter so much more for him to win in New York and what it would be. I mean, think about Peyton Manning with the Denver Broncos. He goes there and wins the Super Bowl. He's a legend in Denver. He only spent 3-4 years as a Denver Bronco, but he's still extremely highly regarded. The same is going to be for Tom Brady down in Tampa Bay for what he was able to do for that franchise. Comes to the Jets for 2 years. If he wins a Super Bowl in one of those 2 years, he would be remembered so fondly forever. And just like from a national level too, everyone says LOL Jets, LOL Jets. If he was the one to end that curse, that just adds to legacy, like you said.
Absolutely. Buffalo Jet fan, your thoughts on Rodgers having Favre-like shenanigans?
Yeah, the situations are just very, very eerily similar. Like, the new guy is drafted and the old guy is going to retire, not going to retire, and now be maybe traded to the Jets. It's very, very it's weird. It's strange. But I think with Aaron, I don't know, man. I don't know. Repeat the question, dude. I'm an hour and a half in.
Do you think that the shenanigans between Rodgers, Rodgers was pissed off at Favre early in his career?
Legacy by winning it in New York. That was the next time. I'm sorry. I'm with you. Okay.
That's all right.
So yes, it would matter more if it was in New York. It reminded me of when I'm a big NBA fan, and when LeBron won his in Cleveland, it was like winning 2 or 3 somewhere else. And I think with Rodgers, he's already top 10, definitely top 8, probably top 6. I think if he wins another Super Bowl, I think he probably cements. I think the top 3 are pretty secure in Brady, Montana, Manning, and then is Favre the 4th best is Rodgers the 4th best quarterback ever if he wins another ring? Elway's got 2, and I think he does have a lot to add to his legacy, and there's nowhere else where it would mean more. I think Jets fans were toxic, we're impatient. You hear those criticisms, and that's true. I've been both of those things. If you follow me on Twitter during a game, I have the emotional stability of like a 13-year-old girl during a football game. But our bar for quarterback play is also so low. Like, I like Mike White, but let's be honest. Mike White became a legend because he could hit a check down pass. Like, that's what happened this year. And Mark Sanchez is immortalized. I went to every single one of those playoff games of Mark Sanchez. I spent my life savings as a high school senior to do it. No regrets. But the dude had like 55% completion percentage, and that's who, our legends are. So I think if he comes here and he wins one, man, it's going to be huge for us and huge for him.
V-Man drops in with a super chat. V-Man says, Aaron Rodgers will come because winning with a perennial loser like the New York Jets will silence his critics and haters, just like Brady to the Bucs. That's a good way to put that too. We just kind of brought it up, but Brady was tied to the same sort of legacy where was it Brady or was it Belichick? What's going to happen? Now he goes to the Bucs. He winds up winning a Super Bowl there. Now everyone can sit back and say, oh, it was clearly Tom Brady pulling all the strings up there. I don't know if the same conversation is necessarily had with Rodgers, but I do think having him come to a perennial loser like the Jets, like the Bucs were, is going to mean that much more, and I think we're all probably on the same page there. RJ McPot drops in, says, are we concerned on Bill O'Brien's return to New England? Not at all.
Mac Jones still under center?
Hey, Mac Jones got drafted in the first round because Bill O'Brien was his offensive coordinator at Alabama. Come on, aren't you concerned?
You mean in the NCAA where there's only 2 or 3 teams that matter any given year ever?
Oh God! I mean, are you telling me? Are you not afraid of Mac Jones, Tigo? It seems like you're a little maybe not so fearful of him.
Mac and Noodle Arm Cheese Jones is not someone I'm very very worried about with a top 5 defense.
Matt, we had these conversations about Nathaniel Hackett earlier in this show. A once bad head coach becomes an offensive coordinator. Does Bill O'Brien become a good offensive coordinator after being a bad head coach?
Well, wasn't he already a bad offensive coordinator with Alabama?
I don't know. How many quarterbacks did he get drafted since he's been back at Alabama?
He's only there
is it just Mac Jones? He's only been there for 2 years. That's right, because he traded Hopkins 2 years ago. Okay, yeah, that's right then. Just Jones.
But, yeah,
I mean, it wasn't Hurts, it wasn't Tua.
If you looked at every Alabama fan's reaction, they're like, thank God that we got this guy out of here. I don't know. I think he comes across a little bit as toxic to me for what he was able to do at the end with the Houston Texans. Now, he did have some success as a head coach earlier in his career, but everyone points to his time. He spent, I think it was just 1 year as the offensive coordinator for New England in 2011 when they had like legitimately one of the best offenses of all time because they had Brady in his one of his primes. He has had multiple primes. Gronk, Hernandez, and Wes Welker, and Julian Edelman, and all these guys. They just had this elite level offense. I don't know if that was him more so than just the amazing talent on that roster. So I'm not super concerned with it, to be honest with you.
Buffalo Jet fan, are you concerned with Bill O'Brien?
No, now anything would be an upgrade over Matt Patricia, I'm assuming, and Mac Jones was serviceable as a rookie. But yeah, if we get Aaron Rodgers, or even if we get Derek Carr with our defense, I'm not super concerned about Mac Jones. I think, I don't know, Bailey Zapp might end up having that job by the end of the year. So no, it's nice that, you know, the Patriots are kind of like the least of our concerns for once. Although maybe I shouldn't say that since they haven't beaten them since Nam. But yeah, I'm not worried about them.
Pepperidge Farms remembers when the Jets beat New England. Tigo, I want to hear your thoughts. Bob, what's up with him?
I like Bob, like as a coach, right? Like he was a good coach in Houston. What he wasn't was a good GM. Like Bob, the GM, got Bob, the head coach, fired, not the other way around, right? Because no one's gonna look at that DeAndre Hopkins trade and be like, oh yeah, that's a good trade. It's a great trade. Real good job there. And that was the problem there. But also, like, you did blow like a 17-point lead to the Chiefs. You know, there's a lot there, and the biggest thing for me the reason I'm not worried is because that offense is still New England's. Like, New England's offense is still New England's offense. Who is Mac Jones going to throw the ball to? That's it. There's no one there that I'm really worried about. Like, unless they're going out and drafting a bunch of wide receivers and signing a bunch of guys, like, it's too early to be worried about Bob.
I agree. Andrew Yale drops in. He says, trade for Rodgers equals draft picks. How do we do it before 6-1? It's because we were talking about the post-June 1st designation. For sure, I think it's going to be... I have a hard time thinking it's not going to be the 13 pick. I would love for it to be a second-round pick and then the conditional first next year, but I don't know how they can justify trading Rodgers without guaranteeing a first. So maybe if it's, you know, a second-round pick this year, it's got to be a first next year. If it's a first this year, maybe it's a conditional pick next year. I don't know if it gets up to 2 firsts like we heard kind of reported. Like if the Jets go to the Super Bowl, I kind of don't. That was sort of the thought process I didn't mind. Like if you gave up 13 and then your conditional first in 2024 was if the Jets got to the Super Bowl, so you're giving up the 31st or 32nd pick. I think I'd be all right with that if my back was against the wall. I don't want to give up 2 firsts straight up, though. Buffalo, I want to hear your thoughts specifically about what you would give up for Rodgers, because we know how the picks would work before June 1st.
I would be really surprised if any team gave up 2 unconditional firsts. That would be like an unprecedented return for a player of his age. You can't really use like the Matt Stafford or Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson comps because, they're not getting those guys for 1 or 2 years. So if there's got to be a first round pick in the deal, fine. I'd prefer it be in 2024, but if beggars can't be choosers, that's fine too. I think a first round a pick and then a second pick with conditions that could scale anywhere from like a third to a first is fair. So like if he's back the second year and they make a late playoff push, like that's how it was with Farve. It was very specific. I think there was one for even if they won the Super Bowl, it would go up to something. So I'd be fine with that. You just can't give up 2 unconditional firsts and then have him, eat a bad gummy on the bye week and retire. And then you're out, 2 first round picks or whatever. Joe Douglas is not going to do that. So if there's a team that wants to give up 2 unconditional firsts for Aaron Rodgers, then Derek Carr is a Jet. I think Joe Douglas values, as much as he values the quarterback position, 2 unconditional firsts with no contingency plan if he retires after 1 year. I can't see it, man.
Tigo, what about you? What do you think a trade for Aaron Rodgers looks like?
I think Buffalo hit it right on the head. If someone wants to give up 2 firsts for Aaron Rodgers, all right, I'll just take Derek Carr. Like, it's not that hard. For me, I think the package is probably 13 because I don't see Green Bay not wanting a first this year. They're not going to take the first next year because they don't want to pick 32. They want to pick earlier, and 13 has more value. So I think 13 should be able to just get it done straight up. But I've seen, and something that I'd be okay with is if it turned into 2 firsts, is it's a first this year and a 4th next year. It's a conditional 4th that if he comes back, that 4th turns into a 3rd. If we make the playoffs, that 3rd turns into a 2nd. And if we do the thing, that 2nd turns into a 1st. And then I'm cool with that package. Like or if it's like a bunch of conditions, like he's got to play a certain amount of games and throw for a certain completion percentage, and he's got to hit Elijah Moore 6 times on an out route facing due east, like whatever it is, you set that all up. And if it eventually can become a first, like I'm cool with that. But as long as that other first round is we do the thing, we win a Super Bowl, right? Like that's the only way. If it's 32, you can have it. I don't care. But if it's not 32, you can't have it. And so that's the way that I kind of look at it and the picks there, especially because, in my opinion, this draft is not top heavy. The 2 guys that I want at 13 aren't going to be there at 13. And so we are going to be trading that pick down if you're telling me 13 can get me a Hall of Fame quarterback, go do it.
That's a great way to word that. I love the way you just put that, where if you're planning on trading down, because like you said, I don't think the tackles are going to be there at 13. I think they're going to be gone by that point. I don't love the idea of going receiver in the first round. I don't hate it. Could I go safety? Maybe. Could I go linebacker? Maybe. I'd probably prefer a trade down in that situation. And if you're going to trade it down, give me the quarterback. I like that a lot.
The only guys at 13 for me are Peter Skoronski and Brian Branch. But both of those guys are being taken in the top 10. Skoronski's going either to the Titans or Vegas, and I would be totally surprised if Brian Branch isn't like an Eagle or something like that next year or whatever it is, because they have that pick. Like, he is so good. He is everything that Kyle Hamilton was sold to us to be. That's like Brian. I think so.
Are we live?
Comments are flowing.
Oh no, not well. It's still spinning. Oh wait, no. Yeah,
I can't tell.
I see.
We're back. Yeah.
Hey, there we are.
Cool. I don't see it on my end, but if you guys say we're good, we're good. Chat says we're good. Yeah, Optimum's
Gase couldn't kill us.
I just ran a wire from my basement. Not just, but like literally 2 days ago. Ran a wire from my basement where my cable comes in all the way up to like right behind my computer. So it's like a straight up connection, but Optimum sucks. I got to figure out if I get like 2 routers or something like that. Let's go back to where we were. Matt, I want to hear from you. Trade for Rodgers, what does it look like?
Okay. A second this year, and a conditional 1 next year with the condition of Rodgers being on the roster at the start of the league year for next season. If he's not, that pick could change to something else. What I'm not sure. But I don't think they're getting a 1 this year.
Ooh, I do like that. If we can avoid giving up the 1, I think that's what would make me feel like the happiest for sure. All right, let's see. I got Blitz Crew chimed in. I can't pull up the super chat, but I can read it to you. He says, last time we got an older, talented quarterback to join us. How did that play out? Vinny Testaverde, I'm in. Ryan Fitzpatrick worked out pretty good. Brett Favre worked out, would have worked out pretty well if he didn't get hurt. Vinny Testaverde worked out well. It's actually been like our most successful formula as a franchise. Right. Buffalo, any thoughts on the older quarterback coming in?
Yeah, I think I've heard a lot of like, oh, we did that once with Farve. How'd that work out? And I'm like, well, if you look at around that time, those were still some of the best years of the last 20 years of the Jets. Like I've heard people say, oh, that'd be a same old Jets move to bring. I'm like, no, a same old Jets move is to draft a bust, surround them with nothing, fire the coach, and then fight about it for 3 years. That's the same old Jets move. So I think each situation is different. And I think that you have to trust JD to evaluate this particular situation. And I think it's worth it for Favre. I don't think we should be too affected by the past for better or worse. I think you have to evaluate this for what it is.
Tigo, I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think about the older, talented quarterbacks? Blitzcrew's super chat said, last time we got an older, talented quarterback to join us, how did it work out? Vinny Testaverde, I'm in. We brought up Ryan Fitzpatrick. We brought up Brett Favre. We've said that was probably our most successful run of stuff in our franchise's history. Your thoughts?
I'm assuming Buffalo said this because I needed to pee so badly, so I had to go use the bathroom. But Buffalo has said this before, and this is the best point when it comes to go out and getting Rodgers or anything like that. And that's the fact that there's 2 ways that you can get a franchise quarterback. You either draft the guy in the first round and he works out, or you go and get a veteran at the end of his career. And those are the only ways that you can win a Super Bowl if we look at it historically. Either they've won a Super Bowl with a team that they're drafted with, or it's a guy at the end of his career has a falling out with the team that drafted him, and now he's available for whatever reason. And so the idea that getting Aaron Rodgers is going to set us back or we're not going to whatever, like, what other option is there, really, that gets us a Super Bowl?
Where is back for the Jets? I'm looking back. I don't know where back is to go at quarterback.
Yeah, like
39 out of 32 quarterbacks or whatever. I think that's where Zach ranked. He was like 39th in certain categories as a quarterback.
Like there's just no option. What are we going to do? Like, you really want to run it back with Zach? Well, I still believe in two so that I can justify my jersey purchase that I made because I believed in him hard. Like, it's not going to be next year. I just never like the idea of like people's like, oh yeah, you can't go get Rodgers. Well, give me a solution. What's the solution then? What's better? What's better out there than Aaron Rodgers right now? Because there isn't anybody.
Yeah, and if you look at it from a Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh perspective, if you could get any quarterback that would guarantee your job longer than this year, who is it? If you go out and you get Derek Carr and he has an underperforming season, he's going to be here. But they may switch it up with the coaching staff if it doesn't work out. With Aaron Rodgers, you're guaranteed 2 Super Bowl runs, and then you're probably guaranteed that 3rd year, assuming you're going to test out Zach, and then either you reset it after that or you decide to let them have another chance at a quarterback if they wound up winning a ring at some point.
And you get Arch Manning, that gives you another 5 years. I'm just saying.
Right? See, this is the healthy way to go, right? Matt, I want to hear your thoughts. The older quarterbacks have seemingly worked out for us. Do you agree?
Yeah, well, 100%. We ran through a few guys right there. Vinny, Favre was working. They were 8-3, looking like the number 1 seed in the AFC. Ryan Fitzpatrick was fun for 15 weeks in 2015. I think that's the move. I don't think they're drafting another quarterback right now. We could have that conversation in a couple years maybe, but I think they're going to go the veteran route, and I think it'll work with this roster.
Completely agree. Bobby Woodruff becomes the newest member of the Jets Talk 24/7 family, joining the frequent flyer tier. Bobby, thank you so much for doing that. Make sure you check out all those custom emojis you got, guys. Drop some JETS in the chat for Bobby joining the channel. Sam Aiken dropped in with super chat. He says, better to sign Carr, 𝐒𝐿𝐽 and Von Bell. There is a direction that would make me very happy as a Jet fan for a number of different, reasons. But it all stems from Rodgers not being available. If Rodgers is available, Rodgers has got to be the move, I think, because it just gives you so much hope for your pick that you already have on your roster. But I do like Carr. I like 𝐒𝐿𝐽. I like Von Bell. I probably like 𝐒𝐿𝐽 2 years ago, more so than I do now. I don't know. Matt, your thoughts on Carr, 𝐒𝐿𝐽, and Von Bell instead of going after Rodgers and that offseason?
Yeah, don't know how much I like 𝐒𝐽 at this point. As you said, if this was a 2020 or 2019 conversation, probably a little bit different. I'm not anti-Derek Carr if that's who it ends up being. I think, the Jets could be good with Derek Carr, and they obviously need safety help. So whoever the hell it is, please land someone in safety. And can it be someone who's a little bit on the bigger side? I can't do 2 5'9" safeties again next year. That's not going to work.
Tigo, I want to hear your thoughts. Carr, 𝐒𝐿𝐽, Von Bell. You signing up for this?
I think here's the thing, right? And I think people are looking at this wrong because I don't think that's a realistic thing. Because if you get Carr, Carr's going to eat up more of your cap space this year than Aaron Rodgers. But with Derek Carr, you're guaranteed to have the 13th pick. So the way that you have to look at it is if you go get Derek Carr, understand that you're building the team through the draft. That's how you're going to build a team. You're going to bring back a bunch of guys. You're going to have to sign all your players from the draft. And then you maybe get one big name free agent. Like a 10, 11, 12, $13 million free agent. If that's Von Bell, I'm cool with that. I'm super cool with that. But if you get Aaron Rodgers because of his $15 million cap hit, you probably forego developing your team through the draft because you're going to give up 13. And that's where you would get a player that's immediately going to come in and start. But you're going to have an extra $15 to $20 million that you wouldn't have with Carr. You can go and get Von Bell. You can go and get Edmonds. You're probably bringing in a tackle like 𝐒𝐿𝐽 𝐫𝐢n𝐽 on the right side. Looks real good, kind of a thing. Like you have more money to go do things in free agency with Rodgers, where with Carr, you'll have less money, but more draft capital.
Well said. Very well said. Buffalo, your thoughts. Carr, 𝐒𝐿𝐽, Von Bell.
I'm down for Carr. I think 𝐒𝐿𝐽 and Von Bell are both good players. I don't know if they're fits for the Jets. I think if the Jets want to go ahead and I'm assuming you're cutting Carl Lawson and replacing him with 𝐒𝐿𝐽. I think the whole point of cutting Lawson is that you have young guys who can come in JJ, Clemens, and Huff and replace some of that production on the cheap, and then you can invest that money in other areas of the team that aren't as deep. I think would be the logic behind that at edge. Although 𝐒𝐿𝐽 is, if it was Madden franchise mode, sure, I'd take 𝐒𝐿𝐽 and Lawson. He's a good player. Von Bell, we need help at safety. I think, to my understanding, Von Bell is a little bit more of the strong safety, and Jesse Bates is a little more of the free safety in Cincinnati. So again, Von Bell, good player, but I think to complement Jordan Whitehead, we want somebody with a little bit more range, somebody with a little bit better ball skills. So I like both of those guys. I don't know if they're fits for the Jets. I also think Tigo is right. I think there's this a little bit of a misconception that the team has to look left tackle. Then hey, that's something to talk about. I just don't know if I see Joe Douglas spending the money on an edge or a safety like Von Bell. Although I like those players.
Man, my internet does not like me tonight. I think. All right, I got you guys back. Am I back?
Yeah, we're back.
Now we're just missing Buffalo.
Yeah.
All right, let me see. I'm going to click a button and I'm going to see.
And he agreed with me for the first time in our very long friendship. This was going to be a beautiful moment.
I think so. My internet's definitely all jacked up. So I have no idea what happened to Buffalo. He got booted. I think we're still live. I'm pretty sure we're still live.
Yep.
Yeah, we are. I can see us.
All right, cool. So I'm just going to move on to T. Rivera. T. Rivera says, Rodgers is a lock. Go get him. Just effing do it. Guys, off topic, you think what happened with DeMar in Buffalo. Do you think the NFL will step up and end Tua's career? I mean, this dude can die on the field. I thought Tua should retire. He had 3 brain injuries in a matter of like 4 months. That is an absolutely insane amount of head injuries to have. Hey, what's up, Buffalo? Sorry, my internet, I think, booted everyone off.
Okay.
But yes, I think the NFL is not going to step in because it would almost admit fault to some extent. I don't know. I think Tua should have retired. I think the DeMar stuff's scary, but that's not the head injury. I think his was more so that weird hit to the chest, right? Like that's the verdict with him. I don't know. Buffalo, what do you think?
The DeMar injury is a 1 in a trillion moment.
Yeah, it's such a rare one. That's like the baseball to the chest type injury.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I guess the question should be, I'll reword it a little bit. Buffalo, do you think that the NFL should step in on Tua and maybe encourage retirement?
I don't think they'll specifically encourage that specific player to retire. I do think you might see like a rule that is maybe colloquial known as the Tua rule, where I think they got to do something where if you suffer multiple concussions like in the same month, maybe you have to go on 4-week IR. And then if you're 3 concussions in a year, then like you're out for the season. I think just treating each concussion like its own thing where everybody knows it's those cluster concussions that are close together that are really dangerous. So I think the NFL will have to do something. Him going out there on national TV 4 days after getting his bell rung and then with his hands like that was just one of those signature moments where it's like, ooh, like we got to make sure that's not happening. And I could see a rule change. I don't think they force Tua out though.
Tigo, what do you think about the whole DeMar and Tua injuries on national TV? Do you think the NFL tries to step in?
They're unrelated. That's the biggest problem, right? I think Buffalo said it perfectly. The problem right now is that the NFL treats every injury as an individual event instead of looking at the compounding situations that lead up to an injury, right? And this is where if this change or if something like this is going to come, it's going to have to come from the NFLPA, not the NFL, because the NFL is not going to want to admit fault and take their players out and come up with more rules to get their players gone and things like that. They would rather just two-hand touch the quarterback than to ever take their quarterbacks out, and they're not going to push players out at all. So it's one of those things where while the Damar Hamlin thing sucks, that's a 1 in a floppity jillion % chance that you hit the guy in the perfect moment on the uptick in the A4 ventricle and the guy's heart just stops. It's one of those things where the likelihood we could see that hit for that same exact hit a million more times and never have that injury. And that's they're just unrelated. And even though I think Tua should hang up his cleats just for his own mental health, dude, you're already richer than any person in your family has ever been. You have so much generational wealth. It's not worth shortening your life. I look at it and I go, like, you're shortening your life 10, 20 years by continuing to go out there and play a boys game.
Well, what's crazy is I had a conversation with someone and we were saying how I thought Tua should retire. They're like, that's ridiculous. I was like, no, if you look at the average age of a male when they pass away, it's 75. When you look at the average age of a football player passing away, it's 55. You're losing 20 years of your life to this game. That is absolutely horrifying. Matt, do you think the NFL should step in for injuries?
I don't think they should step in. I think it should be up to the player what they want to do. Obviously, with Tua, it's really tough, man. He's had a ton of injuries already in his young career. I think it would probably be best for him to retire, but you got to leave that up to the player. He's got to make his own decision there. It's tough. Head injuries are no joke. The CTE is scary. I'm sure everyone's seen all the documentaries and just the impact that it could have on you later in life. It's not good. And if I was Tua, I'd really consider getting out while you're still, kind of functioning.
I agree. I think that's a well put statement. Letting the player make the decision themselves, I think, is important. I think, you guys were right too. Tigo mentioned the liability sort of thing with the NFL not wanting to admit fault. I think that's 100% accurate. But we have reached the end of our show. So we're going to pick some qualifiers. Matt, could you head over to last week's show for me and grab 5 qualifiers? I need to select, what do I got? I've got 8. I got to select 2 more on this side.
Buffalo, the Jets gods ended the stream because we were finally going to agree for the first time in our friendship and then it couldn't happen. The YouTube gods were like, no, shut it down.
Smite them.
Just like, it
boom, lightning strike. Let's see. Come on, Nightbot. Help me out here. I wonder if Nightbot's not working because like the stream kicked off.
Maybe.
It doesn't.
Oh, there it is.
There's one.
There we go. What is it? 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐜𝐫𝐢𝐛𝐞. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐜𝐫𝐢𝐛𝐞. All right, I should have one more in there. And then Matt, are you ready?
I am ready. Let me know when you want me to start rattling them off.
All right, I can't do 2 things at once, so let me just have Nightbot do this. Finger Lakes Jet fan, you are qualified.
Nice. He's a good dude.
Nice. All right, Matt, fire away.
Okay, we got 7 levels 2, 3, 4.
Great name.
Okay.
Rob 380.
Okay.
Mac Jig 5148.
Okay.
Eric Craig 7800. And here, let me scroll down. We'll mix them up a little bit. We'll go Dane NYJ for number 5.
Dane NYJ. All right. I'm excited to have Buffalo and Tigo in this round of odds or evens, boys. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, God.
Put up a finger.
11, 12, 13, 14. 14's an even number. Indy Jets fan, gone. Rico the Pup, gone. Curly Norman, gone. Florida Jet fan, gone. Finger Lakes Jet fan, gone. Rob, 380, gone. Eric Craig, gone. All right, 3, 2, 1. Aha, 4. It's an even. Kev Lowe, gone. Hank G, gone. 7 levels, 2, 3, 4, gone. Dane, NYJ, gone. We are down to 4. 3, 2, 1. What is that? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13, that's an odd. Daniel Murphy, gone. Jameson Young, gone. Kev Chatta, Mac Jig, last 2. First number in the chat after the sad face by Lisa Nadermayer, plus whatever we throw up. 3, 2, 1. 7, 8, 9, 10. What is that? 10, 13, 13 plus 3. Oh, man. Kev Chatta was the one. 13 plus 3 is an even. Oh! It worked out. Kev Chatta he won.
No, look at that.
He won because he picked the right number. Oh, good stuff.
Rigged.
Good stuff. Although, actually, if I say that, I guess the first number would be a 5 because Dante's super chat came in. But it would still be an odd either way. So it works out. Kev Chatta, hit me up. One of my social media platforms. Hit me up on email. I'll get your information. I'll ship you out a shirt. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Let me just throw Dante's super chat up here real quick since he had that in here. He goes, I think Rodgers is seriously considering retirement. What do you, if he does, Carr? Yeah, you got to pivot to Carr if you don't get Aaron Rodgers. I think he's got 110 million reasons why he's not going to retire. But there were a few moments during the Pat McAfee show today that I thought, he does like golf. He seems to be enjoying it right now. So, and once you start thinking that way, you start, you know what they say. You're already retired then. But boys, let's go around our panel. Let's give our closing thoughts. Buffalo Jet fan, Tigo, thank you so much for joining us. Buffalo, I'm going to go to you first. Closing thoughts.
My closing thoughts are Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr. One of the two is going to be the Jets quarterback. And that whichever one it is, all of the Jets Nation and Jets Twitter is going to take it right in stride. There will be no arguing. No one will be called personal, awful names for having a small variance of opinion. None of that will happen. But either way, it's going to be such a monumental upgrade. I think it feels like it feels doom and gloomy because we didn't have an OC. We don't know who the quarterback is, the 6-game losing streak. But I still really feel as optimistic as I felt as in an offseason in a really long time. I think the Jets are going to be good. They're going to win some games. They're going to have some fun. I'm excited. Appreciate you guys having me on. It was a blast.
Tigo, any last words for our panel?
I think the best thing to say is that no matter what's going to happen, this offseason is going to be a whole lot of fun. This is the first offseason in a long while where we aren't pigeonholed in one singular direction. We can do a million different things with 13, whether that's trading for Aaron Rodgers, whether that's taking a tackle, whether that's trading back, whatever it is. This offseason is going to be the most fun, at least I know that I've had in an offseason, because we're a good football team. Like, whether you want to believe it or not, we are, right? And we're maybe 2 or 3 pieces away from really, really competing for this thing. And just go get the quarterback right. That's it. Just get the quarterback right, and then let us have fun this offseason doing all of our mocks and all of that stuff. Just get it done sooner rather than later, because I don't want to keep talking about this until June.
Matt, your thoughts?
New episode of Just Jets is coming out tomorrow. We're talking about players to watch this week at the Senior Bowl. Should be a good one. Make sure to check it out. And it was a blast, as always, talking New York Jets football with you guys.
I love it. Boys and girls, thank you so much for hanging out. If you're on your way out, please hit that like button if you enjoyed what you saw here today. Make sure you sub up all our great content creators. All their links are in the description down below. Boys and girls, thank you so much for flying with us tonight. This is Jets Talk signing off. JETS!
I think every single person in this locker room is a competitor at the highest level. So, yeah, when you feel as if your backs are against the wall, you never have to feel like you got to do it by yourself.
Under pressure, sacked by Quinnen Williams. Right sideline, Uzomah's got it.
You look to your left and your right, you got guys out there with you that our whole point is to help each other.
This one to Mims. That's Corey Davis climbing the ladder.
To be able to go out and lead these guys, just to know how hard these guys work and how important it is to them, and then you get that chance to lead them. Everything that happened that needed to happen for us, it almost felt like kind of like a sign, like get like a second chance almost.
Gets extra pushes, running left.
Maybe a little extra life to breathe into the locker room.
Touchdown, Jets.